This is the start of chapter 5. This is dealing with rate of change and slope. So our objectives are to find rates of change from tables and to find the slope from some given points. Okay. So what I would suggest is that you write down this part where rate of change shows the relationship between two changing quantities. When one quantity depends on the other, the following is true. So rate of change is the change in your dependent variable divided by the change in your independent variable. So if you think about how do we find change, change is usually by taking two numbers and subtracting to find out how much the change was. So the table down here shows the distance a band marches over time. We want to know, is the rate of change in distance with respect to time constant? Okay, so does this, as this changes, does this change at the same rate? So the way that we do that is we have to find the rate of change for a couple different periods. So the first period is going from minute 1 to minute 2. Okay, so we want to find out which one's dependent, which one's independent. Okay, does time depend on distance, or does distance marched depend on time? And the answer is the distance will depend on how much time they've marched. So we want to find the change. So the change would be, how far apart are these? What's the difference between 260 and 520? So to do that, you take 520 minus 260. And then on the bottom, the change in independent. So since I took this one, 520 minus 260, I'm going to take this one first, which is 2 minus 1. When we do that, we get 260 divided by 1, which is 260. Okay? We have to do this again then, but we have to do it this time with these numbers to find out if it's the same. So this time I'm going to take the 780 first minus the 520 divided by 3 minus 2. And this time I get 260 over 1, which is again the same. And then lastly, we should do it one more time with our last two. So we want to do it with these two. So I take 1040 minus 780 divided by 4 minus 3. And again, you get 260 over 1, which equals 260. So to answer the questions, is the rate of change in distance with respect to the time constant? Yes. What does the rate of change represent? The rate of change in this case would represent how many feet the band marched every 1 minute. So they marched 260 feet per 1 minute. So sometimes it's written 260 feet per minute. Okay. The other way that we look at this rate of change is also called slope. Okay, and slope, oftentimes it's referred to as rise over run, which means the change in vertical units, so how far it goes up or down, over how far it changed left or right. So make sure you get this formula down. What is the slope of each line? Well, in order to do that, we need to count. Okay, so slope is going to be our rise over run. So from this first point, how far do we go up? We go 1, 2. So our rise is a positive 2. And when we go to the right, that's also positive. And when we went to the right, 1, 2, 3. So our slope is 2 over 3. Here, we start at this point. And in this case, we go down. So we go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a negative 4. and then we go over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive 5. So our slope is negative 4/5. Now somebody sometimes asks, well, what if we started at this point? Would that mess things up? And it wouldn't, because how far up do you go? You go 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's positive 4. And then you go to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's negative 5. Negative 4 over 5 is the same as 4 over negative 5. So it doesn't matter which one you start at. Usually we start at the one on the left. Okay, hop over those. Now, what if you're not given a picture and you have numbers that maybe are, they don't really work well for counting, like on the graph? How do you do that? And this is the formula for it. So make absolute sure that you get this formula in your notes along with this little part. This whole thing, basically this whole thing should be in your notes. Okay. So what is the slope of the line through these 2 points? Okay, so we're going to start off with the slope equals, if you remember the formula, it was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What are they talking about when they have y2 and y1? Well, what you want to do is you want to take these 2 points and you want to think of one of them as point 1 and one of them is point 2. So obviously it makes sense that the first one is point 1, which means that these values are x1 and y1. And if this is point 2, this is x2 and y2. So now it's a matter of plugging in numbers. What is y2? y2 is negative 2 minus y1, which is 0, x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is negative 1. Well, this becomes positive, so we are left with negative 2 over 4, which reduces to negative 1/2. And that is your slope. I'm going to give you a second. Go ahead and do this one. So I'm starting off by labeling what our x's are and our y's are. My next step is plugging the numbers into the formula. So you see y2 was negative 1, y1 was 3, so negative 1 minus 3. x2 was 4, and x1 was 1. And then you just do the subtraction, and you get negative 4 over 3. So if you had to do this, again, pick one of the points as point 1 and point 2. So we're going to go a little bit quicker on this one. I'm going to call this point 1. So this is my x1, y1. This is my x2, y2. So my y2 is 2 minus 2 over here. My x2 is 2. And my x1 is negative 3. So minus negative 3. So we get 0 over. This becomes 5. So what happens when you have 0 divided by 5? We're going to talk about that in the next slide. And on this one, I'm going to call this one my first point and this one my second. So my first, or my second, my y2 is negative 2 minus 1. x2 is negative 2 minus negative 2. So those become positive. And here we get negative 3 over 0. What happens when 0 is on the bottom? This is what happens. Okay, so if we go back here, what's 0 divided by 5? 0, right? What is negative 3 divided by 0? That is undefined. You can't do it. And that's exactly what the slope of the lines turn into. So I would also write this one. When a line with a positive slope, when a line has a positive slope, it slants upward from left to right. When it has a negative slope, it slopes downward from left to right. If a line has a slope of 0, it's just a horizontal line. And if a line is undefined, it's vertical. Make sure you write down any questions that you have. We will see you tomorrow.